Welcome to the Ego versus EQ and You podcast, where we discuss the key aspects of emotional intelligence and ways to apply it in everyday living. Now let's work together to make common sense more common. Welcome back to Ego versus EQ and You. Today we are going to talk about coaching, a topic we get asked a lot about. So I've invited my co-host today, Steve Friedlein, to join me. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Jen.
How's it going?
All's well in sunny Minnesota.
Glad to hear it. Much better than snowy Minnesota.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
So our topic today, and I thought you could help me with this one because this is one topic we do talk about a lot with clients, and you have decades of coaching experience. So I thought we could just kind of run through what coaching is, what it looks like, the process of it, how to know if you're coachable, how to know who else might be coachable, and what are some types of coaching.
Exactly. And you know, Jen, I think it's great that this session is coming on the tail of the ego versus EQ traps, because so much of what we encounter in the coaching process has to deal with people overcoming certain aspects of their ego that might get in the way of effectively responding to coaching guidance.
Yes, you're right. I think that is sort of a perception out there that coaching is to fix things that are wrong. But in our experience, and I think in sort of best case examples, coaching can be done as a development of skills in someone who's seen as a high potential. So this is someone who might have a future in a growing leadership role that just needs to focus on a little bit more of their leadership presence, or even being aware of some of those things that they can help develop before they get the next job, not after.
Exactly. I'd like to think that ideally someone is performing at perhaps 80% of where they need to be. That to me is a more ideal candidate than someone that has so many issues. They're struggling with performance, they're struggling with interacting with others, that it really makes it difficult for us as a coach to fine tune the things that we can do to help them perform more effectively.
Yes, I totally agree. I mean, not that we haven't done some coaching to assist people to voluntarily transition out of an organization, but
yes,
the best results come when you've got somebody who's already showing signs of willingness to grow, openness to feedback, and already a strong performer that just needs a little fine tuning maybe.
Agreed. You know, I want to talk a little bit too. I think sometimes people tend to think that mentoring and coaching are the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? We kind of get that a lot, but I think there are some distinctions. They have some commonality, but there are also some distinctions that we need to keep in mind if you're looking for a coach or if you're looking to be someone who selects a coach for someone.
Yeah. So what's one difference that you see between coaching and mentoring?
Well, I think mentoring is more of a long-term process and might also have someone inside the organization who kind of knows the ins and outs, has the knowledge and the skills and experience of the job, that they might provide guidance on the how-to aspect of performing more effectively with respect to skills and knowledge. That would be mentoring, one distinction in mentoring to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think mentoring is often, this is how I did it. And if they've grown up inside the organization, they kind of know, like you said, the ins and outs and the ways, the things that are recognized and things that are not as good traits. So they might have more of a mentor focus around, here's what I did, here's what worked for me, versus coaching, which is much more focused on the coachee and where they see things wanting to go.
Right. I think mentoring too involves drawing from experiences and overcoming challenges within the culture of the organization. And one of the benefits of an external coach is someone that doesn't have that connectivity to all of the politically political aspects of what's going on in the organization, as well as the culture. So I think the objectivity of an external coach is another major distinction between mentoring and coaching.
Well, and the confidentiality too, because I can tell an external coach things without consequence or risk of it getting back to my boss or back to
Right,
HR that
right.
internally I have to be a lot more careful about.
Yeah. And one of the things I hear frequently is from a coachee that one of the people they're working with doesn't have a lot of perspective in terms of who they really are. They only see them in certain situations and may have limited access to the to who the person really is, but they use that limited access to make determinations about that individual that may not be consistent with who they really are or how they perform.
Well, it's funny because, and you probably have experienced this too, I find after several months of coaching somebody, I am 100% on their side. And I will talk to their boss or HR or someone in the organization about them, and they might be somewhat critical. And I honestly have to stop myself from getting defensive over them. Like, hold on. Let me tell you what's going on for this person. Why I see
Yes.
them trying really hard here, and why they're not getting the support they need. And
Yes.
I've even myself gotten in trouble, as you know, in organizations because I have defended a coachee who was terminated, in my opinion, really unfairly. And the way that it was done was really wrong. And I was I was not at the middle of my coaching engagement. I was toward the end of it, but I was so upset about the way this person was treated. And it was hard. I mean, I really had to catch myself and say, okay, pull back, Jen. You need to
Yeah.
be objective here. This is
Yes.
the organizations who's hired you, not the person. So it's easy though, once you get to work with somebody to want to root for
Right.
them.
Right. You know, it makes me think about the importance of balance where EQ is concerned. And I think one of the responsibilities of the coach is to maintain that balance. I want to understand where that person is coming from, but I also want to understand the feedback that they may have been getting or we may have been getting from others. And so that significance of balance. And since I said the word feedback, I got to stick there for a second. It's like, who are you getting your feedback from? Okay. As someone that's being coached, are you listening to just one individual and what they have to say? Or are you trying to broaden your understanding of who you are and gain a greater sense of self-awareness by getting feedback from people that I may not necessarily be comfortable with, but I want to know what they're thinking?
I like that. And I think it gives us a chance to kind of explain one of the feedback techniques that we use for coaching clients. And I call it source interviews. It's a version of a 360, which is a way to get feedback from the person all around them. So their leader, peers, direct reports, colleagues around the organization. And there's online 360s, of course, where people can go out and answer a bunch of questions on a website. But this approach is really helpful because one, we can pick the questions that we want to ask everybody. Two, I ask the same set of questions to every person and get some feedback. And then three, I'm able to take that feedback, compile it into a summary. So one-off comments, like one person said this, but no one else did. I usually toss those out. But I look for the themes, and then I can protect everyone's anonymity. So no quotes, just generally, this is what the group sees, or overall, the response to this question was. And it's a really helpful way to get people feedback that's usable, that's got context with it, that can really help us then attack some coaching goals.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Jenna, I want to go back to kind of where we started with coachability and who do we
Oh, yeah.
coach? And I think that's such a big issue because from an organizational standpoint, you want to invest your dollars in the best place with respect to potential when it comes to succession planning or retention or profitability. And so I think the selection of these candidates and are they able and willing? Are they open? What is it you're trying to accomplish? I think, those things are so very important. And I continually go back to how do we make those decisions when making those coaching choices?
I totally agree. I don't think there's enough focus on building a bench inside organizations. Too often, they're going outside the company to fill a role, a promotion role especially. And I'll ask, like, who is ready? Who is ready to be promoted? And a lot of times they tell me, I don't have anybody. And I just feel like, what a wasted opportunity we have. Think about how much less expensive it is to promote from within, how much more motivating it is to all other employees when they see promoting from within being done. I worked early in my career at Nordstrom, and in those days, I don't know if it's still like this, but they had a policy that we could not get promoted until we had somebody ready to take our job. And that was like the conversation. Anytime we were getting ready for a promotion, it would be like, well, who's taking your job? Who's ready? And until we had that person, we were landlocked. And I thought it was such a great technique and a way to promote development from all the way down the organization, because now I'm incentivized to
Yeah.
develop somebody to get them ready to take my role. And and they promoted only from within. They were able to not have to go outside and hire from outside ever. It was a all promote from within organization. It was great.
You've just done a great job of distinguishing between mentoring and coaching, because certainly coaching is part of that. But if I want to get promoted, I need to be mentoring the people on my team, giving them information about who they can become, what they need to learn, what knowledge do they or don't they have, and why don't I think I have the bench strength? Well, it's an opportunity for me to be a better mentor. And maybe I need a coach on the side to help that person out in addition to the mentoring that I'm giving them.
Yes. And it also helps like when you're interviewing and hiring, because you're thinking to yourself, when I hire somebody, I might have to use this person as a successor. So I'm going to be a little bit smarter about who I pick to hire that has runway, right? Potential,
Yes.
perhaps.
Yes. Exactly. Absolutely.
So, what if you have somebody who needs some help, but they tend to be a little more defensive when you give them feedback, or they don't seem to have a lot of ambition, or there isn't a lot of motivation going on? Do you think that's somebody who we should invest coaching in?
Wow. There's a lot of opportunity there. There's no doubt about that. But the one thing that raised my eyebrow a little bit is that defensiveness and what's causing that. And so I would want a little clarification from that person in terms of their willingness to open up and listen to potential feedback that they may not want to hear. So the defensiveness thing, I think, is something we would definitely want to take a look at before we negotiate some sort of coaching engagement, because those other pieces we can work with, the motivation and so forth, but getting beyond that defensiveness. And we always face a little bit at the beginning of a coaching engagement where someone is like, well, why is this? Why'd they pick me? Am I in trouble? And we can overcome some of that. But if it's an overall defensiveness in terms of, I think I'm doing okay, but the rest of the world doesn't, so what's the big deal?
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
difficult.
I think it's tempting to want to say everybody's coachable, but I think in our experience, there are some times when somebody isn't coachable. And honestly, I have found that the lower their self-awareness, the more coachable they are, ironically, because when they don't really understand what they're doing or where the misses are that they can smooth out and fine tune, they're much more eager to want to fix it once it's revealed to them. But it's the one who says, I know I'm this way, I don't care. That person tends to be a lot less coachable.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
So I wouldn't say everybody is eligible for coaching or a good coaching candidate to invest your dollars in. But I think coach fit is also an important element that we should mention, which is
Yep.
best practice to go out and interview several coaches?
I agree. It's like when you make any choice in terms of who to work with or who to partner with. Um, the connectivity is an important piece, and sometimes it doesn't be. It isn't necessary for us to say, "Oh, I totally see where I'm going to get along with this person," but I think having some level of connectivity and specifically some level of comfort
Trust.
going in. Absolutely.
Trust. I think,
Trust.
yeah, so much, because to really have a successful engagement, we are going to have to admit certain challenges to each other. We're going to have to trust this coach that I'm going to reveal something going on with me that may not be seen as
Yeah.
all that positive, right?
Right.
And I have to know that I'll be safe to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you say that because if there's a little bit of relationship rapport at the beginning of the coaching engagement where the person
Mm-hmm.
has had an opportunity to select their coach, I
Mm-hmm.
think trust is built more quickly because you've already established a little bit of a rapport and the tendency to trust moves forward more quickly, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes fit is tied back to gender match or age and experience match. So all of those things can, or communication style match. There's a lot that can go into feeling comfortable with a coach that you pick.
It really does. And I think building rapport is the key
Mm-hmm.
because we can overcome a lot of those initial image related concerns
Mm-hmm.
if we build rapport and communicate effectively, listen well, and speak thoughtfully.
And I know a lot of people are hesitant because coaching is an investment. It's generally not the lowest cost option for development, but it tends to have a very high success rate and gives the organization back some real insight into this person, how to motivate them best, what their potential is down the road. And I think a lot of companies are worried about investing in their people, but in many ways, especially when it comes to EQ, it is the best solution for teaching emotional intelligence skills because it's all tied back to the limbic system. So that ability to experience things and then have a one-on-one customized learning experience to weigh what happened, what does it mean, how do I use this information to improve, can be incredibly powerful in the long run.
Yep, exactly. I think back to different times in my career in different organizations and have thought, boy, it would have been great to have had a coach during this period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I had this person that was a mentor that really provided some guidance that was helpful in my development, but I really needed someone with an ear and a willingness to listen and talk through options with me about how to proceed.
Yes, the talking through the options part is super helpful. Great. Okay, well, in a nutshell, I would say coaching is a powerful accelerator in performance.
100% agree.
Coaching isn't the answer for everyone or everything. And coach fit is really important for a successful outcome. So I would recommend people interview their coaches.
Yes.
Okay. Any last thoughts, Steve?
I think we've pretty much covered it. I, I, I just think so positively about so many coaching relationships that I've had, and I just want to say that sometimes as a coach, I come back fulfilled because of what I've learned about the individual that I've worked with and what I've learned about myself in the process. So it
Mm-hmm.
speaks to me in terms of the fact that it becomes a mutual level of appreciation. And I think it helps me become a better coach. And I strongly believe it helps that person move forward more effectively in their work life.
I agree completely. Well, hopefully you've learned some things today about coaching, some techniques or tips that you can take to use as you're considering this. If you are wanting some anonymous help with a challenging situation, just email me at podcasts@jenshirkani.com, and I'll be happy to share ideas, solutions, things you can do to help improve the situation. Our email address is also in the show notes. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for joining us today on the Ego versus EQ and You podcast. If you liked this episode, be sure to follow us or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please share our show with others. For questions or future topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@jenshirkani.com. Until next time, keep using your EQ and show ego who's boss.